Hello everyone, we have a quick video today on indentured servitude and slavery. And unlike New England and the middle colonies, the southern colonies had plantations that required a large labor force. Remember, plantations are large farms, and they needed a lot of people to work on them. And the growth of a plantation-based agricultural economy in the hot, humid coastal lowlands of the southern colonies required a cheap source of labor on a large scale. This led to all American colonies adopting African slavery as their primary non-free labor system. But this was primarily in the southern colonies that had slavery. First, we're going to talk about indentured servitude. And early on, some labor needs, especially in Virginia, were met by indentured servants. These poor persons from England, Scotland, or Ireland agreed to work on plantations for a period of time, usually 4 to 7 years, in return for their passage from Europe or relief from debts. And indentured servants were free to leave the plantations after they worked off their debt. So they couldn't afford the boat ride to the U.S., so it was paid for, and they worked 4 to 7 years. But then they were free. So these are people that wanted to come to the United States, and they eventually gained freedom, which is the opposite of slavery. And eventually, most plantation labor needs were satisfied by the forcible importation of Africans. Africans were kidnapped in Africa and brought on a boat to the United States, where they were sold to owners. Over time, large numbers of enslaved Africans were forcibly brought to the colonies via the Middle Passage. Unlike indentured servants, African slaves had no rights and would never gain their freedom. They were also subject to very harsh punishment. So slavery was very bad. They got beat a lot. There was a lot of stuff that went on with it. And they never gained their freedom, and they did not want to come to the colonies. And this is just the Middle Passage. It is a trade route between Africa, Americas, and Europe that transported slaves, and is also known as triangular trade, as the route made a triangle shape. So slaves were picked up in Africa, they came to the Americas where they were sold, and then supplies were brought back to Europe and then went to Africa, and it just made this triangle shape. And the development of a slavery-based agriculture economy in the southern colonies eventually led to conflict between the North and South in the American Civil War. So much later, about 150, 200 years later, the United States has a civil war. The northern part of the United States is going to fight the southern part of the United States, and slavery plays a large role in that. If you guys have any questions, let me know.